Hey everybody, thanks for joining me, Dr. Ross Marcagiani, with a great talk at Turnpaugh Health and Wellness Center. So I gave a in-person talk the other day during the week at Spooky Nook Sports Complex about how to detoxify our body. We had a little bit of a technical error, so I'm going to redo the presentation in my office, so those who wanted to listen to it on YouTube have that availability. So we're going to go through this talk. It'll probably be a little bit quicker because there's not going to be any back and forth or open response questions like I do in person, which obviously elongates the presentation. So it'll probably be a little bit more streamlined, but we're going to be going over basically everything that was that we discussed in that hour-long conversation. So be prepared to carve out about an hour of time here. And I'll try to go over the questions that they asked in the audience as well, because you viewers at home probably will have the same exact questions. So let's dive in here. How to detoxify your body. All right. First, we live in Pennsylvania. We live in farmland country. So this image kind of hit home. It looks like there's a farm in the background there with all the smoke billowing out from the plants there. But every day we're in constant contact with environmental toxins leading to health concerns in a variety of areas of health, right? So we're constantly exposed to toxins 24/7. This is something you can't get away from, right? We might be able to get away from heart disease. We might be able to get away from glucose. We might be able to deal with autoimmune conditions. There's no way running away from toxins here. So this kind of just, again, hit home and struck a chord, with me, that we're constantly exposed to toxins. And then again, in farming country, there is a lot of heavy machinery and tractors and a lot of spraying. We woke up this morning to a lovely perfume of manure, probably with a bunch of other chemicals mixed into it this morning. So again, just another reminder that we're constantly exposed to toxins. And if you're not in a more farming country, then you're probably in the city. More smog, more car exhaust, more fumes in that way. So this was a really interesting study that UC Berkeley Medical Center did. Now I know the source is being reported from the new UC Berkeley News Center, but UC Berkeley Med Center over there did a really interesting study, and they took about 70 women, pregnant women, and were able to take samples of their blood, and they found that in almost 80% of the pregnant moms, 80% of the chemicals detected in mother's blood samples were also detected in the mother's blood samples. So basically chemicals that were detected in almost 80% of the mother's blood, right? 59 toxins assessed, including PCBs, OCPSs, PBDES, PFCS, mercury, and lead. So over 59 toxins were discovered in these pregnant women. And then they say concentration of chemicals found in at least 20 of the maternal and cord pairs were significantly correlated 77% of the time. So basically, I had a little bit of trouble wrapping my mind around this one. But basically, they found 20 materials that would match about 77% of the time that would be in cord blood, right, versus the maternal blood as well. So all of this is just to bring awareness that we are constantly exposed to toxins. And for those moms that are out there, before your beautiful baby is brought into this world, they're already being exposed to those toxins, right? They're already becoming toxic, right? So what are some what are some symptoms, right? Now they're a little bit vast, or they can cover many potential areas of concern, but really what we're noticing with people who are having poor detoxification, generalized muscle aches, difficulty concentrating, abdominal pain, irritability, headaches, kidney distress, elevated liver enzymes, food allergies or chemical sensitivities, chronic pain syndrome such as fibromyalgia or other chronic fatigue, right? So this is something to be aware of here. Another symptom that I didn't share, and I had a patient come in and mention it the other, about a month back, is that, doc, I don't sweat at all. Like I can be in a hot area or I can be working out and I'm not sweating. So they're not using one of those really important aspects of detoxification, which is sweat. We'll get into the other ones in a couple minutes. And I saw him yesterday and he goes, doc, I'm now sweating. I now notice I'm perspiring. Even if I'm in a tempered room, I'm having a little bit of perspiration. So that's awesome. Now we're starting to move his detox pathways. He's being able to remove some of these harsh chemicals and toxins even more effectively. Here is just some more symptoms of chronic toxicity. I'm not going to go over every single one. You can pause it here and read through them. But I just want to highlight on a couple big things here. So again, a lot of muscle aches. On the right-hand side are diseases that have been at least linked or correlated. And you can see autoimmune disease, cancer is on there, dementia, mood disorders, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. So there's a lot of symptoms which are on your viewing left and middle, and then disease states that are associated with poor detoxification. And just so we can share this, if you're trying to look for information or you want to use good PubMed articles, use liver biotransformation, so hepatic biotransformation. That is the technical word in medicine for detoxification. You know, liver detoxification is a little bit of a fad word, or a hot word, because it catches a lot of people's ears. But it's, again, hepatic biotransformation is detoxification, liver detoxification. So these are some symptoms. You can just see the myriad of conditions or symptoms that can be associated with poor detoxification. Now, I like this definition because it sums up metabolic detoxification, hepatic biotransformation. So it's simply normalizing the body's ability to metabolize xenobiotics, which are foreign compounds outside that we breathe in. Like I always think like xeno for some reason, like Mars or something foreign, odd, very strange that's outside that we actually have exposure to. And metabolizing endogenous compounds. So we make toxins within, right? When we produce urea and other metabolites or other ketones that can be harmful metabolites. These are endogenous compounds that are created and that we get rid of. So it's simply normalizing the body's ability to metabolize xenobiotics and endogenous compounds while we try to temporarily reduce our toxic burden, our toxic load. Really nice, and I love the visual here. Okay, so I'm going to break this down really simplistically first. I took this from Dr. Turnpaugh, at least this learning technique, because he always goes, I'm a simpleton. I like to break it down very, very basic, and I love that. So we're going to take a note from Dr. T here, and we're going to break this down really simply. So everyone knows detoxifying is like getting rid of garbage, right? So let's do the analogy of getting rid of garbage. So think of phase one is your trash is just sitting in the house and piling up here, right? Phase one is your cytochrome P450 enzyme, okay? So this is, again, the trash just sits here and it starts collecting, and then we gotta take it to the curb, okay? Now, stage two here is not technically a stage of detoxification, but I wanted to put it in here because it's so important, and this is probably the step where patients who do not detoxify effectively, where we see this is the area that they're having all of these symptoms because they're not detoxifying correctly. And this is the intermediary metabolite, right? This is where now the trash gets taken to the curb. So you've yelled at Johnny or you yelled at Sarah enough to finally take the trash out. You're done smelling the trash, or you're done, jamming the trash down. Time to take it out to the curb. So as the trash sits there at the curb, trash is going to build up, right? Now, phase 3 is our conjugation. So we now have taken this water, we've now turned this fat-soluble lipid turned into a water-soluble compound now, and now it can be removed. So it's the conjugation. Phase 3 is the removing. So now the trash person is coming by and picking up the trash, and the trash is now being removed to the dump. Now, in my conversation yesterday, I said I wish I put phase 4, and phase 4 would be the trash is now taken to the dump, and they either burn it or bury it or use it for other compost. That stage 4 would be the removal of the toxins. So that would be like the excretion through sweat, the expelling CO2 or breathing out toxins, right? Also urinating out, also passing bowel movements and getting rid of toxins through that. So those are our main ways that we remove toxins. So again, that's sweat, breathing or respiration, urination, and defecation, right? So those are important ways that we want to make sure all of those are working correctly in order to rid ourselves of this toxin burden. So I know it's not on the visual here, but stage 4, the trash at the dump, it's getting either turned into compost, getting burned, getting reused or recycled or buried, right? And that's the removal of it in our body. So now that we've talked about this, relatable way to detox, we're going to go into the actual mechanistic aspect of it now, and we're going to be able to relate to it. So again, we talked about that phase 1, but let's go back here. So we first get a toxin. Our toxin comes to the liver, and it's typically known as a non-polar lipid-soluble toxin, okay? Now, you can see underneath this, I love this chart because it goes into so many areas. Lipid-soluble toxins are stored in adipose tissue, and they can contribute to increased mobilized toxic load. So they can make patients can actually get, if you lose weight too quickly, or some patients will report as they start to lose weight, they feel more sick because as they start to break down and lyse their adipocytes or their adipose tissue, their fat tissue, your fat tissue is its own little organ, right? It's its own working system. And when you break that down, it's going to release toxins and increase your toxic burden or toxic load. So that's why we don't want to see this drastic weight loss, also with other complications, which I won't get into. We get concerned because you could potentially get sick quickly, and also there's other more looming issues that could be present. So again, just being aware of that. If you're losing weight, you could end up increasing your toxic load, okay? So we have that non-polar lipid-soluble come in, the toxin come in into phase 1, our cytochrome P450 enzyme, right? So this is just an enzyme that breaks down the toxin here, right? Enzymes either will speed up mechanistic reactions of the body, or they actually help to break down certain aspects, right? A lot of people know enzymes with our digestive tract because enzymes will break down the food that's in our digestive tract. So phase 1, the trash is sitting there on the curb, the trash is sitting there in the house. It's piling up. You've been shoving it down and trying to, get a couple more inches of trash bag, right? That is phase 1 cytochrome P450 enzyme. In this part, we try to make this, we try to break down this non-polar lipid soluble by making it typically water soluble. or at least polar. We try to turn it to make it more polar. That's really the first phase. Then phase 2, which we'll talk about second, turns it into more water soluble. So first phase of the cytochrome P450 enzyme, we take that nonpolar compound and we try to make it polar by either, you can see here the reactions, oxidation. So we add oxidation to it. We do reduction, or we can remove an oxygen. Hydrolysis by adding a water. Hydrolysis by removing a water. Hydration by adding a water compound, or dehalogenation, which removing a halide from that lipid-soluble toxin. Then we get to what I would like to call phase or stage 2, right? It's not technically a stage. That's now when that trash goes out to the curb and sits on the curb and it starts to pile up, right? This is again, one of the biggest sticking points, right? This is where if patients have issue with detoxification, it's here, okay? Think of this process like an assembly line, right? So if someone's not working effectively, or they're going out and taking a coffee break down the line, then everything is going to start piling back up on the beginning of the assembly line, right? So we want to make sure, and then this is typically during that assembly line process where we see, those people that have gone out to take coffee breaks, right? It's usually at this intermediary metabolite stage where we see the backflow, and we see a lot of our negative symptoms from here. And I just think of it as like, okay, nobody wants trash piling up in front of their house. You don't want to be that person in the neighborhood that goes, oh, do you see Jane's house? There's animals and feral animals by it, and it smells horrible, and all the trash is just building up. Nobody wants to be that house, right? So that's the analogy here, okay? And we'll talk about how we'll work to make sure that assembly line, that point in the assembly line, is working optimally. You can see here the big thing is antioxidant protection, and it gives some good nutrients here, which is wonderful. And then you can see on your phase 1, it gives you good nutrients there as well. Again, we'll discuss that in just a second. So now we get to, in my previous picture, which would have been stage 3, but really it's phase 2. This is conjugation. So now we make that polar lipid water soluble, okay? So we do that by either sulfation, glucuronidation, glutathione conjugation, acetylation, amino acid conjugation, or methylation. So this is the part where the trash person comes by and takes the trash away from the curb, right? And then, as I discussed, I should have added a 4th picture with the trash being taken care of at the dump site. That's your excretion. You're now excreting that polar water-soluble compound. Again, either respiration, either sweating, either urination, or defecation, right? And you can see here there are some certain things that we can take to help improve each phase. So again, phase 1, riboflavin, niacin, folic acid, B12, love glutathione. So really sulfur-rich amino acids. That's probably one of the things that we love to use the most at the clinic is glutathione for multiple things. And then in phase 2, again, really important, sulfur amino acids, glycine, taurine, glutamine, N-acetylcysteine, cysteine. So some foods that are rich in that, we'll talk about that, but just quickly would be like your broccoli, your cauliflower, your Brussels sprouts, good rich sulfur amino acids. And then you can see here on the bottom right-hand side where some of those endotoxins and exotoxins come in. So endotoxins, again, are within, so it's our bodies producing some of these toxins just by natural process, and some exotoxins, right? So certain drugs, prescription or over-the-counter, recreational drugs, agricultural chemicals, thank you Lancaster County, food additives, household chemicals, pollutants, contaminants, and even your microbes as well. So we're going to just go in a little bit detail. We'll go through this quickly. So again, phase 1, phase 2, you guys are going to be pros at this. Phase 1, cytochrome P450 or the CYP P450 enzyme pathway. This is where we add a functional group to the fat-soluble toxin, creating a nonpolar compound and having it be polar. These functional groups are then neutralized in phase 2. So phase 1, remember, the trash is building up in the house. Phase 2, now the trash person comes by and removes the trash. And this is when the functional group is then neutralized. That neutralizes the toxin and makes it water soluble and ready for excretion. So then we have phase 3 here. Again, this involves kidney, right? So we want to make sure we have increased urine alkalinity, which supports excretion of many biotransformed toxins, right? Hepatic biotransformation. Remember, that's just detoxification. So the liver, the health of the liver is really important for removing and excreting those toxins. So again, we hit upon it quickly, but just a couple really good nutrients that help support phase 1: L-cysteine, magnesium, B vitamins, glutathione, really, really awesome. We use something called Trifortify because it is lipid soluble, or it basically is attached with a fat ball. I'll talk about it in a couple minutes. And amino and fatty acids for phase 1. Phase 2, how do we support that? L-glutathione precursors, or glutathione, some precursors of that, NAC, alpha-lipoic acid, those are great. Glycine, sulfate support products, again, we talked about those sulfur-rich amino acids to help support phase 2 conjugation. Then also, really important, that intermediary step where we get those intermediary reactive species, right? That's the point, that's the crux in the assembly line where the worker always goes to take his coffee break. That's where the weak point is if people are really having issues with detoxification. So the big thing is adding good, powerful antioxidants, vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin C, making sure we're using good bioflavonoids, whether it's turmeric or quercetin. Also, ellagic acid is a really good antioxidant, which we'll talk about in just a couple minutes. But again, good B vitamins helps neutralize reactive intermediates. And then we could get into a whole conversation, another conversation about ATP production. Using pantothenic acid supports ATP production. You can use nicotinamide mononucleotide. You could use nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. These are basically compounds or precursors that help support a mitochondria. And just think, mitochondria help us to work more effectively. They produce more energy, right? So if you can have your assembly line workers have more energy, they're obviously going to work more effectively, right? But this is, again, the crucial point where we want to add antioxidants to make sure that we don't have toxins being stuck in this intermediary phase. So phase 3, how do we increase urine alkalinity? We can use some potassium citrate. Again, supports excretion of various toxins. Use excessively to address kidney and pH-related conditions. So that's a nice little tip there, potassium citrate. Okay, so what can interfere with detoxification, right? So these are some nutrients. So trans fats, cooking with polyunsaturated fats, or mainly lipid peroxides. So that's, again, like your palm oil, your corn oil, just your really unhealthy hydrogenated oils. Always look at the back of your ingredients: coloring agents, flavoring agents, preservatives, emulsifiers or stabilizers or thickeners, right? When I see these words, this is always what I think of with emulsifiers, stabilizers, and thickeners. I think it was Super Size Me, when they went to the taste scientist and they brought out powders, and he would taste powders, and the powder would taste like a strawberry sundae, or it would taste like a barbecue chicken, right? These are all emulsifiers, stabilizers, thickeners, chemical additives to make the consumer want to continue to buy that product and hit pleasure centers, so to speak. Obviously, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides here, excessive fruit consumption, right? Especially our fruit that's more porous. What first comes to mind is strawberries, right? Because just think about, like, if you were to put water on a strawberry, it sucks in and pulls in that water, right? So imagine the farmer spraying herbicides, pesticides, or fungicides, and that will get absorbed into the plant. So that brings up one of my first nice corrections. If you don't know about it already, the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. If you don't know that, get that. It's really helpful. It shows you your 12 most toxic foods that you want to buy organic, and then it gives you your 15 clean foods that that do not need to be bought organically. So that's really helpful. We talked about some environmental pollutants, exhaust fumes, metabolic end products, some other things. If you have water damage or excessive water damage to the home, or even again in farming country, tractor goes by. I just a story that pops in my head. I come home, it's late in the evening, the sun is starting to set, and there's just this nice orange mist in the air while I'm coming home, right? That's all of not only probably some chemicals, but the molds that were perturbed and kicked up in the air after they've cut down the crop or have done some type of seeding. And so we're intaking and inhaling those mycotoxins, right? So being aware of that. Again, we talked about other environmental pollutants such BPA, dioxins, DDT, PCBs, right? These are something to be really aware of. Other heavy metal and chemical exposures. So depending where you're working, if you're working around metals or you're working with, around lead or certain chemicals or certain paints. VOCs, so volatile organic compounds, toluene and benzene. We want to be aware of xenoestrogens, and obviously various drugs and antibiotics can be harmful for or provide more stress to the liver. This is a really cool aspect. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's a really interesting and piquing or thought-provoking aspect that was actually termed by the FDA as forever chemicals, right? These, by the name that mentions it, it's in the name, right? These chemicals are forever. Once you have them in your body, you have them forever, okay? So these chemicals are the main name of it is per or polyfluoroalkyl substance. So anything that has per or polyfluoroalkyl substances are forever chemicals. So some of these are in grease-resistant paper, fast food containers or wrappers, microwave popcorn bags, that silver lining, pizza boxes with that grease-resistant paper. You get your fast food, McDonald's, it's in there. Or if you order your pizza, it's on that paper so it doesn't stick to the box, right? Candy wrappers, some non-stick cookware, stain-resistant coatings used on carpets, upholsters, and other fabrics, water-resistant clothing, cleaning products, really, really big. So ladies that are out there, and hey, men who might use some cosmetics as well, a lot of toxins are put into these personal care products and cosmetics. There's very little regulation on it, so just be careful with what you're getting. And as you can see here, if you were to view a little bit lower here, really good site to use is EWG, Environmental Wellness Group. Get that app. It allows you to scan your products. It gives you star ratings. And again, I like it as simple as possible. It's like a stoplight. It gives you a green, a yellow, and a red, right? Green is good. You're good to go. Yellow, probably you want to put the brakes on and stay away from it. Red, absolutely stay away from. So again, that's EWG. But being aware that also other paints, varnishes, sealants, contaminated or municipal water has been found to have some of these forever chemicals. So make sure you throw anything out that contains the word PTFE or has any word in it that says perfluoro, and then it might have a big fancy word after it. But anything with PTFE or perfluoro in the ingredients or other ingredients, make sure you're always looking at the other ingredients. That's usually the one that's in really small letters that you'll have to just make sure you don't miss, but get rid of it, or else you're going to have it forever, literally. This is another chart that I like that just brings a little bit of understanding or awareness about heavy metal exposure, right? So this is, they assessed the mercury content in various seafood, right? So you can see the second bar in is the FDA action level for mercury, right? Basically to call alarm, right? And you can see our larger fish, swordfish, mackerel, sea bass are going to be much higher levels of mercury found in it. And then I just wanted to bring awareness here. You can see here, it's, let's see, I'm counting, I'm looking at this right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's 10 in albacore tuna, right? So a lot of people love their tuna, right? Pretty high in mercury, so just be aware of that. And at the end here, you know, your sockeye salmon, your king salmon, your sardines, really low, nice low levels here. So the acronym that I use for my getting fish, it's SMASH fish, right? So salmon, mackerel. Now I know there's king mackerel here. That's probably a much larger fish. Probably not this. Would not be the same level of mercury. So again, it's SMASH fish, salmon, mackerel, anchovies, sardines, haddock. Okay, SMASH. That's the acronym to use. Those are your lower levels of mercury content. And then this is a really interesting aspect, obesogens. These are actual toxins that will disrupt our endocrine system and cause you to gain weight, right? So we can, just by detoxifying and removing toxins, we can help affect our weight here, right? So these obesogens are compounds that can enter the body and change our hormones. They promote fat storage, right? So the endocrine receptor, or the estrogen receptor, is very non-specific or insensitive, right? And really, as long as there's something that just looks or resembles an estrogen molecule or an ester, it will bind to it, right? So anything that looks similar to it, it will bind to that estrogen receptor and activate the estrogen receptor, but it will not activate it in the same way that an estrogen molecule or an estrogen compound would. So this is actually increases your ability to store fat, cause several other related issues by activating these either obesogens or xenoestrogens, causing multiple issues, which we're going to talk about in just a second here. So again, these estrogen or these obesogens look very similar to estrogen. Common obesogens, BPAs, found in metals and plastic cans. Phthalates, which are in food containers, toys, beauty products, pharmaceuticals, shower curtains, and paints. Atrazine, which is in your herbicides, or organotins, which are more industrial products, and your chlorofluorocetonic acid, your nonstick cookware, microwave popcorn again. So these are obesogens, right? So this document, again, goes into a little bit about how some of those obesogens could be broken down, right? So the big thing here is I want you to see in the middle of the page where we have the 3 levels, there's a 16 alpha hydroxyestrone, a 2 hydroxyestrone, and a 4 hydroxyestrone, okay? So the preferred pathway is going to be the 16 hydroxyestrone, so the 16 pathway, okay? we're able to remove that and excrete these toxins more effectively, or these xenoestrogens or potential obesogens more effectively, right? But the more we are exposed to these obesogens, the more we're exposed to those xenotoxins, the more that the detox pathways will prefer and will be primed and programmed to detoxify down the 2 and the 4 hydroxy pathways here, right? And if we're driving more of the 2-hydroxy pathway, this is where we get more expression or tissue development and growth of breast tissue, uterus tissue, ovaries, cervix, prostate, testes, bone. So we get a lot of tissue formation here, some really nasty things. Also, if we push down the 4-hydroxy pathway, you can see here this can lead to potential carcinogenic effects, so possibly turning on more DNA or priming the body to turn on and activate cancer, whether it's through a DNA, RNA, but priming the body to activate cancer, like I mentioned earlier. So just being aware of that. And usually what I like to do is if we're seeing a high amount of estrogen, using calcium D-glucarate or diindolylmethane, DIM, is really helpful. There's some other things that we can use, but those are a nice place to start here. And then this is just an article that was published by the NIH here. And again, just showing you that obesogens are, it's something to be aware of. So recent evidence from many laboratories have shown that a variety of environmental endocrine disrupting chemicals can influence adipogenesis and obesity. So adipogenesis is just the creation of fat, right? Something to be really aware of. And again, it's the same out of the same article out of the NIH. And then just the part that added here, obesogens can be defined functionally as chemical agents that inappropriately regulate and promote lipid accumulation and adipogenesis, right? So something to be definitely aware of. Now, when selecting a program here to make sure we're detoxifying correctly, you want to make sure we're working on phase 1, phase 2, working on phase 3 of the kidneys here, and working on heavy metal excretion, metallothionein, which is helpful with that. This is just some nice tips again, things that help with phase 1, phase 2 detoxification, decaffeinated green tea, artichoke leaf, again the ellagic acid, which is the that antioxidant that I discussed earlier for the intermediate metabolite. It comes from vegetables and fruits, but really powerful antioxidant. Also, watercress, we talked about some supporting phase 2 detoxification with sulfation here, N-acetylcysteine, sodium sulfate, sulforaphane, again, those sulfur amino acids, acetylation, good B vitamins, B5, magnesium, methylation, B12, choline, and reduced, always using reduced form of folate. 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate is the best reduced form here. You can also use silymarin and some other herbs to help with liver function. We're going to do next, again, just 3 essential components always that you want to think about when you're detoxifying. Reduce the amount of incoming toxins, provide nutritional support, making sure we're supporting phase 1, phase 2, and urinary pH, alkalinity, right? Now for the more complex cases, like, doc, I've tried the shake, I've tried doing the various detoxes here, and I really haven't seen any benefit, or I've really struggled with it, right? This is where consult a practitioner who does this on a regular basis, and make sure you're taking the right steps and proceeding safely. Here's just a good program that works well. It's very basic, and again, it's just reiterating initial clearing, begin eliminating potential allergenic foods and toxins. Stage 2, continue with eliminating the foods and gradually can increase or introduce some type of medical food or supplement. Then stage 3, reintroduce some of the foods in a very slow, systematic manner to be able to make sure that it's not overwhelming your toxic burden here. These are just a couple products that I like. OptiCleanse GHI, really good. NAC, that N-acetylcysteine, that's your sulfur amino acid, your calcium D-glucarate with estrogenic compounds. And then our favorite here is that Trifortify Orange, which is in a liposomal form, which is packaged with that fat ball I talked about earlier, so you can digest that food, that glutathione, absorb that food more effectively. Otherwise, a lot are watered down or do not have a fat compound with it, and the absorption of it is extremely poor. That's one of the knocks on glutathione. Or doing, which we do here at the clinic, and it works wonderfully, doing IV glutathione, right? And this is a great tip from Doc T. If you're someone who doesn't handle glutathione really well, you're getting headaches from it, adding molybdenum with it can help to reduce some of the potential side effects that you get from glutathione. Some additional treatment options: infrared sauna, using detoxifying foods, cilantro, cruciferous veg, cauliflower, broccoli, kale, radishes. I'll have you read through this here. We've talked about a lot of some of these other things, such as the carnitine, the B vitamins, the NAC, the milk thistle, the glucoraphanin. Coffee enema, if you want to take it to that level, some people do, which is totally fine. That's another really nice option to stimulate the liver, stimulate the gallbladder, and kind of jumpstart detoxification, and making sure we're hydrating, getting good clean water, whether it's through osmosis or you're using a Berkey, reverse osmosis or a Berkey. Just make sure having good clean water. If you're doubting it at all, just get a simple first start with a simple water test. Make sure you're not having high iron levels or any other metals that could be in that water here. This is a really cool stat cited from men.webmd.com, and it showed that compared to not drinking coffee, so if you didn't drink coffee, and compared it to having at least 2 cups daily, can translate to a 25% reduced risk of colon cancer, 80% drop in liver cirrhosis. So liver cirrhosis is when the liver, in the word, becomes cirrhotic, right? Damaged, and basically dying almost, right? The liver is almost just becoming necrotic and becoming really scarred and damaged, so it can't work as effectively. So this is really cool to see that with good, clean coffee. That's a caveat, because coffee grounds can be become moldy very easily. But using good, clean coffee grounds can help with liver function here, right? And then again, just reiterating some good detoxification steps, just the basics. Keep it simple. Organic, unprocessed diet, right? Lots of good greens, a little bit of good quality protein, whether it's cage-free poultry, grass-fed meat, wild-caught fish, and then clean waters. We talked about herbal teas, detoxifying and clear estrogen, and then saunas and coffee enemas, right, to hit the total package here. Some things that I like. One patient asked, well, what's a good detox shake or a juicing, right? I'm not a huge fan of juicing because she was like, oh, I like carrot, but carrot, if you go crazy on carrot, it's high in sugar, so you could be adding a lot of sugar into the system. But Joe Rogan has a really good juicing recipe. It's basically what it is 4 large kale leaves, 4 celery stalks, 1 cucumber, 1 chunk of ginger root, some about 4 cloves of garlic, and then 4 slices of pineapple or a pear. And then that's a really good detox shake from juicing. Sauna is really helpful. I know I put that on here as well. So typically, if you're not someone who doesn't do a sauna regularly, first off, start with an infrared. I know people are like, well, I want to do a steam shower because I feel like I'm sweating more, right? You're going with the infrared sauna, you're going to penetrate deeper into the skin. I believe it's about 4 centimeters. Don't quote me on that, but I know for a fact you're going to penetrate deeper into the skin, improving detox pathways even more effectively. I would recommend starting off at about 10 to 15 minutes, probably at least every other day or about 3 times a week at about 100-degree temp. If you're not used to that, then you can increase the amount of time as you start to become more acclimated. So if you 40 minutes, I wouldn't really go much beyond that, about 40 minutes every other day or daily if you really want to. And then you can get up to about 130 degrees. That's usually 100 to 130 is where you want to keep it at. And then make sure afterwards, dry off, wash down. Don't let those toxins seep back into the skin once you've come out here. And then here are some just frequently asked questions. Typically, I get mild headaches and muscle aches. So we can typically recommend magnesium when they're detoxing. But again, that's going back to that intermediary phase, that middle phase where the assembly line workers take that coffee break, right? So usually we'll do also add a lot of good antioxidant support if we haven't done so already. Patients who have a bowel movement daily on this program, again, because that's one of our ways we remove toxins. So we want to make sure they're having good bowel movements, using extra fiber, using mag citrate, using senna, using some things to help move the bowels. We can add digestive balance here as probiotics to help the gut as well. And then stress relief, right? Making sure that you're in a calm state while detoxifying. That is always helpful. It's just one less major stressor that you have to worry about while you're going through this detoxification. And usually what I recommend, I myself personally do about a 7-day detox once a quarter. And usually it'll be like mainly just vegetables for those 7 days, good greens, and with some type of medical shake or some type of detox shake during those 7 days. So that's typically what I do there. I hope you enjoyed this talk. And just be aware of our emails and please sign up for the YouTube page. And I know myself and other doctors are doing conversations, and we're always putting together really good content. So don't hesitate to sign up for an in-person presentation. And also keep an eye on our email list and our YouTube page. Don't hesitate to sign up for that. So thanks for hanging in there for this long video. And I hope you get some good actionable steps here. And if you know anyone who's struggling with this, don't hesitate to share this video. Have them reach out to us if you're struggling with detoxification. You're getting a lot of issues with detoxification. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for your time, and you have a wonderful day.